Time, passion, and conversation are precious commodities. I want to talk about travel. I definitely want to talk about food. I want to talk pro wrestling. I definitely want to talk gaming. And so much more. I'm Sergio Barrera, and this is A Few Minutes With. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of A Few Minutes With. My name is Sergio Barrera, and joining me, as always, is the man, the myth, the legend. On a show we're going to subtitle, I Remembered to Hit Record. This is George Alvarado. George, how's your week been, buddy?
It's been good. Very long week at work. You can relate. And yeah, like, what is it? We're going into this 3-day weekend, and oh my God, like much needed.
I was gonna say, like, we're recording this on the first of a 3-day weekend, and so I'm happy that you got time off as well. As I was very much looking forward to this week. I don't know if I have bags under my eyes, but it has been it's been crazy, and it's funny because one of the reasons here's our random topic. Straight from Sergio's head at the last minute moment of the week. I was thinking earlier how one of the reasons that I take all of my vacation time for the most part, like before this last quarter of the year, is because as busy as we are, we also get a lot of time off. Like Veterans Day, and again, working for the company we work for, which, you know, we don't have to name, but we get Veterans Day, we get Thanksgiving. In training, we, depending upon how things go, we also might get the Friday off after. I don't know if you have the Friday off after Thanksgiving.
I requested it off. I have time.
Okay,
I have PTO.
You know, posers have to. And then what else? Christmas, obviously, New Year's. There's just so much time that is ends up in off time for me that it's like having extra vacation days, and so. I still have a couple of days to burn, but I might just carry them over. But yeah, no, it's kind of weird. I don't know why I was thinking about that. It's like I get a lot of time off this time of year, just naturally on the calendar. So
yeah, and I'm pretty sure my boss won't. My boss ever listens, or my bosses ever listen. We're kind of salary. We're salary, yeah. So we, when there's no work, skip out of work. Or jump out of a little early.
I'll be sending him a link to the copy of this show.
Go ahead. I'll autograph it.
Hold on, I'm searching our profiles right now.
Get on my phone book.
That's right. Yeah. No, but yeah, it's kind of cool. I work in the training organization, and you know how it is. If you've got students, people got to teach, right? And so this time of year, I know a lot of my peers like to take off, time, and so I'm okay. I've always worked during this time of year with no time off, simply because I'm okay with it. I don't mind covering for my peers, because again, I don't know. It's weird. I love if I'm gonna take time off. You know me, dude. I'm gonna go on the road, right? And around the holidays, it's like everybody's doing that. So the last thing I want to be doing is stuck in traffic. Yeah. And so yeah, I don't mind working at the Christmas, the day of, or a day or two around it. That's enough for me. It's like, what am I going to do? So anywho,
I don't want to tell you. I don't want to tell you that I got the whole week of Christmas off, or was it Christmas Day?
That's cool. If that's you, I mean that's awesome. I mean, it's a good time. It's a good way to recharge for the new year. So no, that's good stuff. It just isn't for me. So I'm going to walk the hallways like George. George,
no, you're gonna be like, George, I'm ready for my offering.
That's right. Yes. Where's my honey bun?
Where's my honey?
Not George.
Where's my
snack,
little Debbie?
The actual snack, or maybe George's a snack. Oh, this is getting weird. All right.
My little Debbie. Where's my little Debbie? Not George. My little Debbie.
That's gonna be your nickname, Little Debbie. No, but no. Okay, so I have to ask you because I know we're still a couple of weeks away from Thanksgiving. Which is followed by another major holiday called Survivor Series War Games. But when it comes, I need to know ahead of time because I'm curious. I don't think it's too soon to start talking about it. Thanksgiving. Are you a traditionalist in terms of like turkey in the sides? Is there a favorite thing? Like, I want to know, what is your perfect Thanksgiving plate?
Okay, so I love Thanksgiving food,
Hmm.
and I think we've had a similar conversation when we went to the
Probably.
steak place. When we went to the
Yes.
steak place, we were like, "Hey, what do you like? Do you like the main entrees, or do you like the sides?" You're like,
Right.
"I'm all about the sides."
Yeah.
I'm all about the sides of Thanksgiving. You know, you
Okay.
talk about the deviled eggs. Gotta have those deviled
Oh,
eggs with a lot of
absolutely.
paprika on top. You gotta have the different types of stuffing. If it only has one type of stuffing, you're in the wrong place. You need multiple types of stuffing.
Okay, now I have to stop you there. Don't lose your train of thought
Okay.
because this is important
Hmm.
because we talk about food on the show
Yeah.
and a bunch of other stuff. So the stuffing.
Hmm.
When you say different types, are you
Hmm.
talking about like there's the in the bird stuffing and then there's like the regular, or are you talking about types?
No, so many years ago, when my grandma was still around
Hmm.
or alive, we she used to make a ground beef stuffing,
Okay.
where it was just like it was almost like dry, but it was
Okay.
so perfect because you put a little gravy on that, and there you go, like bam, like next level stuff. And then of course you have the out of the box Stouffer stuffing,
Sure.
and then which generally doesn't have much meat or any kind of protein in it. It's just pure vegetables.
Right.
And then you might have somebody else that might experiment with some stuffing, or they might try to make their own stuffing or whatever, and they'll
Yeah.
put some unique items, even as going far as throwing some jalapenos in there, doing a jalapeno
Look at
stuffing.
you. That sounds good,
um
actually.
so it's one of those where, yeah, like I've been around my family and they've had different types of stuffing.
Yeah.
Or I might go to, like, when we would travel to different families, or different one side of my family and then the other versus the other,
Yeah.
they might have their own unique way of stuffing, or maybe even a unique type of side. We were talking about a little bit of sides. Green beans, and then green beans with bacon,
Yeah.
kind of difference. Macaroni versus like a baked macaroni, or like
Mm.
something like that. So yeah, like I'm a sides person, but yeah, like
Do you do the cranberry? And if so, which one?
I'm not a cranberry person.
Well, then you're wrong. Okay.
But if somebody throws it on my plate, I'm gonna eat it.
Okay.
But like I'm not much of a cranberry person, and
Gotcha.
if I'm gonna tolerate it, it's out of a can.
Okay. Well, and yeah, that's all I've ever really had. I don't think I've ever had, or maybe I've had something that's made it fresh, but
Yeah.
I'm the guy that wants that Jello one, like
Hmm.
from the can. Like I can sit there and if I'm not careful, I'll knock one of those cans out, especially if it's cold.
Yeah.
Like I love it nice and cold. I have no aversion to that. Well, although I think I'm in the minority because a lot of people hate that stuff, and I'm like, how do you hate it? It's like it's savory Jello.
So
So
I got a trigger for you, and I
okay.
don't know if this is how, if you're gonna trigger it or not. So you walk in, you see the mashed potatoes.
Hmm.
They left the peel on the mashed potatoes.
Oh, absolutely. I'm all in.
Okay.
I'm all in.
There's some people that
Hmm.
hate it, and I'm just like, how do you hate freshness?
Right.
Like, how do you hate like
Okay.
amazingness?
Now, I feel like I have to qualify.
Okay.
So, is it russet potatoes or is it Yukon Gold?
I don't know what the heck the difference is.
Okay. All right. So, and this is why we have these conversations.
Yeah, very
So,
deep
so the
conversation.
russet potatoes, those are your traditional, the stuff that you and I probably grew up with when mom made potatoes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The russet regular ones that people buy,
Hmm.
which I love. Don't get me wrong. Okay, we've recently in the last few weeks, and I don't know if this is like an age thing. Like I'm finally okay with like, hey, that could be a meal. We do baked potato night. Okay, so we'll bake up some potatoes, toppings, and that's it. We go to a local barbecue place and we get brisket to put on top, that kind of stuff. Um, those are russets, and the skin on those are thick,
Hmm.
right? So while I can definitely make mashed potatoes with it, and I tend to leave the skins on. With russets, I might peel them just because after a while the skins kind of gum up the potatoes because they're so thick.
Yeah.
But if it's a Yukon Gold, the cool part there is while you're going to pay a little more for the Yukon Golds, the skin is thinner, and it's a perfect like um, contrast to the creaminess of the potato, and you get that it's not like you're chewing on skin. It just adds some texture that's really really nice. So what I'll do, I think, is on a future stream where I'll do some cooking, which I plan to closer to the holiday. I will save you some, and I will bring you some Yukon Gold mashed potatoes because we should do like a comparison. Like, do you make mashed potatoes?
No, I barely learned how to make rice.
Good, then
So
you'll get the best stuff. So
I'm gonna go buy some easy baked mashed potatoes or something like that.
the
Some
powdered,
yeah, powder, salt, and what is it? Powder, salt, milk, water. There we go.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so yeah, okay. So then I heard green beans, I heard mashed potatoes, I heard stuffing, various kinds.
Mhm.
Stovetop. Do you ever use stovetop?
Yes.
That stuff's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Like it has no reason being as good as it is, and I'll tell you who turned me on to that. My wife Jen. Uh, Years and years and years ago, when we first got together, I had never had stovetop stuffing because I grew up in a household where like that wasn't. It was rice, it was beans, you know. I
Mhm.
mean, it just was right. And so the notion of mashed potatoes was only when we had like a baked chicken, which my mom's barbecue chicken was amazing. Um, but we never did stuffing.
Mhm.
Even at Thanksgiving, there was this Cajun stuffing that a friend of the family would make. That thank goodness the recipe lives on till today with my siblings. And it's a combination of ground meat, ground sausage, and rice, and it's Cajun, right? And that's the stuffing that we have at my family's. So that's what I grew up with. So when I very first had like stuffing, it was at Thanksgiving, probably I think with Jen, and her grandmother makes the traditional in the oven, baked in a pan, cornbread. I think it's cornbread stuffing, and then she also does stuffing from the bird, right? Which I love both. I know some people have issues, but then I was introduced to my very first time with stovetop, and I remember thinking this is going to be a step down because I now know what like fresh made stuffing is because of her grandmother, and but no, the very first time I had stovetop stuffing, I was like, my whole life was like, the sun has risen. Like I can have this all year long. Are you
Mhm.
kidding me?
And it's not
And
hard to
so
make either.
no, it's not. It's not. And so, so yeah, it was just this like to this day, it is not uncommon for us to buy a canister of stovetop and just pop it out now and then. Like this Sunday, I'm gonna roast up some turkey thighs,
Oh,
and time got to practice, right? Got
yeah.
to start
Mhm.
practicing getting ready for not cooking, but getting ready for the meal, like
Yeah.
getting ready to. Like, what are my capacities now that I've gotten older? So it's going to be the roasted turkey thighs. I might even smoke them, and then the stovetop stuffing, and probably a veg of some sort because I'm at the age where vegetables have become overly important. So, but
You get in trouble.
right, exactly. If I don't eat my veggies, yeah.
We were we haven't talked about the main course, the turkey.
Oh yeah, okay,
Uh,
go for it.
have you or let me ask you this: what's the variation of turkey that you've eaten in Thanksgiving?
You mean like styles?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously your traditional roasted.
Okay.
I've had fried turkey before,
Okay.
which I again the sorcery behind that, man. I don't know how plus the danger level,
Yeah.
because like you might blow yourself up.
The
Um,
ultimate man level right there. Like that's
seriously,
that's that's where you know you're the head of the table when you can really create that
when you
deep
can
fried
risk
turkey.
your life, dude.
Yeah.
I would if I even tried to do the what is it, the fried turkey, I
Mhm.
would be out there like in one of those silver fire
Hazmats.
suits. Seriously, I would be like lowering it really delicately, and so yeah, I'd be scared. But no, I've had that. That's pretty. Oh, smoked turkey, I've had before. So, but I'm a traditionalist, man. Like
No.
it's got to be that oven roasted, butter under the skin, maybe like a compound butter that's flavored. I do a citrus one that's kind of cool. But yeah, but what about you? Like, what are your?
Same ones. A couple years back, maybe even yeah, a couple years back, had a deep fried Tabasco injected turkey.
What?
And yeah, like that was
Huh?
amazing. Like that was
Tabasco injected.
so back when our job used to give us free turkeys,
Yeah,
my turkey would always be the experimental turkey, as we would put it, because whether it was bad or whatever, like that, it was a
it was
free
free.
turkey.
It was free.
So
Yeah.
I volunteered and I sacrificed my turkey for tribute. I was like, they're like, well, what do you want? What do you want your turkey to be? I was like, deep fry it. And they're like, okay, and inject it with
Wow.
Tabasco sauce. And
So this was
oh
your
my,
idea.
yeah. Well,
That,
it was my cousin's idea, but I told
okay.
him what I wanted. So
Got it. Got it.
yeah, so they did it, and There's nothing like crisp and spicy to
So
enjoy
okay,
a meal.
okay. As you're talking, I'm thinking. So your idea was the Tabasco, though.
Yeah. Well, no.
Okay.
So my cousin originally is the one that like he is a crazy one to the point where he wanted to do the deep fry of the turkey.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Okay.
So it was one of those where that was like 1 year, and then the next year, my dad was like, "I think I can do that.
Yeah.
I have a I have the stuff that we can do it." So he ended up buying the whole setup or
The
whatever.
rig. Yeah.
Um, and then that's where at that point, I think we had it at my house 1 year, and then they were like, "Okay, so what do you want to do with your turkey?" And I was like, let's do, because in the previous years they did one oven one and they injected it with the Tabasco, and then they did like a
Ah.
separate one
Okay.
and it was the deep fried. So I was like, put it two together, put
Gotcha.
both of them
Okay.
together, and then they kind of they took it off from there. But it was
That's
good.
interesting.
Like it's first of all, Tabasco isn't like a super hot, like
No. No. Of course not.
it's more vinegary in my
Yeah.
eyes than anything else. Very, you're gonna taste the spicy,
Right. Right.
but that's what it was. Like the turkey had a little bit of spicy
Yeah.
hints.
You won't lose the
Uh,
turkey flavor.
you won't lose the turkey flavor. So, like, just I'm pretty sure you can go to HEB right now and go buy a pack of cut turkey that's spicy or whatever, and
Sure. Sure.
it'll be a lot cheaper. But the experience was deep fried,
That's
spicy,
awesome.
deep fried Tabasco.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always curious as to what people do, and I didn't think that waiting for this conversation was necessary because
Yeah.
we have 2 weeks to train and prepare. So like we want to make sure that
I want a whole 10-minute compilation of you training and cooking
oh,
all this.
it's just gonna be me sitting still and fasting the day before.
Mhm.
So
You play video games.
that's the compilation. I mean, napping, like haven't eaten today, preparing for the big day. So like when you and I go to Brasau.
Oh yeah.
So for Meat
we,
Fest,
we starve ourselves all day,
right?
feeling
Well,
we feel
what
our ribs. We're
I
like,
think
oh
you
my
do.
god. I'm like, I can feel my ribs,
That
guys.
that last time we went, for those watching, Brasau is a Brazilian churrascaria, and they bring out the meat and swords and stuff, pineapple. And, oh my god, that last time that you and I went, because I think that was our second time.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've left there going, I think I crossed the line.
Really?
Yeah, because I got home and I was like, I can't move. I was like happy,
Yeah.
but meat.
Yeah. I think I got home and I was like, I felt like an accomplishment had just happened. Like, a
Like you
job
ran a marathon.
like a job promotion, meeting the girl of my life, and eating a Brazil. Like that tops like the level right there, just because leaving there, I had all the sides. You saw me, like I had my sides
Oh yeah.
plate. I was even asking for meat like after you had your whole layout, and I was like, I'll get a little bit more. And
Oh yeah, you were a champ, dude.
yeah, like
You
that,
were.
what is it, that pineapple was like life changing right there. I was like,
Yeah.
I never want to eat any other pineapple other than what Brazil like now serves.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So yeah, there you go. Look at that. We just took care of one entire third of the show talking about food because that's what we do here. We do have a few topics we're going to want to run through here before the end of our time together. So as we look forward to our next episode, which is going to be live for the first time, we will be streaming our episodes beginning on Thursday the 17th, live on Twitch exclusively, and then you'll be able to find our posted episodes on YouTube shortly after. But the journey is going to level up, George, to use a gaming term. That is a gaming term, right?
Yeah,
level
sure.
up. All right,
Sure. We'll go with that.
You're like in New World.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we will also, it looks like, be having our first guest interview.
Woo.
And so I'm not going to say anything yet.
Cool.
But I am in the works. I have several folks lined up who have agreed to join us on the show to chat with us and tell us about the things that they are passionate about. And gaming is going to be a big topic here in the next few weeks. So speaking of gaming, I think the last time we spoke, I had already picked up a Switch, and I had borrowed a PS5. Right. There is a box behind me. I now own a PS5, and so shout out to Wario65 on Twitter, who does a great job of completely spamming my account. But yeah, I was able to do like you and Nick said, and he posted PS5s were available from PlayStation, and I was like, the time is now. And so I jumped on, and I was able to get myself a PS5 that I'm going to. Nick told me to continue to play games on his for a while, build my list of games I want to get, and then, return his to him and set up mine. So that's that. But here's the other funny part. I have yet to play on my Switch. So hopefully after we're done with the show. One of these days.
One of these days.
How do you find time to play? That's the thing.
Yeah, we can have a whole conversation in that, and the real answer is you can't. The whole connotation of once you become an adult, you have more money and you can buy video games,
right,
is a complete hoax, because you get old and you have money, but then you have no time to play the video games because you're always working and spending time with the loved ones and all that other stuff.
So I have to ask you then, do you carve time out? Like, are you purposeful about, hey, I want to spend this much time playing today, or is it just, hey, when you have time, you happen to pick it up and be like, I'm just gonna play?
I'm more like, oh, that game looks fun, let's play it, and 5 hours later, I'm like, oh crap,
You're like, hello.
We talked about it a couple weeks ago, me picking up Fallout 3. Literally, you want to know how that like that was just as simple as, oh look, they gave it to me for free, let's download it.
Gotcha.
Downloaded it, spent like a couple hours playing it, and played it for a couple days, and then I found out that I also got Fallout New Vegas for free. So I ended up started picking that up and started playing it, and then and I'll go. I'll kind of dig into this a little bit at a later time on another episode, but I went to a pawn shop, found an Xbox, what is it? Xbox One X.
Okay.
Which is not the series, but it's the one before that. I found that at a cheap price, so I ended up picking that up at a pawn shop. So here I am setting that up at 10 o'clock at night just because I had some time and downloading some games, played some WWE, played some Cyberpunk, and it was just literally like I had time.
Yeah.
If I have time, if I'm not hungry, or if I don't have previous commitments, I'm just gonna spend time doing it.
That's cool. Yeah, for me, I know I've said this before on the show. My gaming is right now limited to when I stream. But I did, with the PS5 acquisition, in terms of the borrowing it from Nick, I did spend some time playing Last of Us. I don't want to play that game in the dark anymore. That game scares me.
Which one?
Last of Us.
Yeah.
Ooh, I
played I think I played like 30 minutes of the game, and I was like, I'm getting scared.
Listen, my first night in it, I had just finished streaming. I'm like, I'm going to set this thing up, and I popped it in, and I sat down and turned it on, and just the intro, the prologue, I was like, oh man, that's intense. And then it starts up, and I'm like, oh, I need to play this during the day. So it's a great game. I love it. I love it. But yeah, so I'm going to try to find time this weekend. I've got a few things on my plate that I got to do, but around all those, I'm going to try to just play games by myself. Like, I mean, for the sake of playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Crown Jewel happened as we transition to our third genre of topic. We are good at this. Dude, let me tell you, I went back and I finally watched the Logan Paul versus Roman Reigns. And I got to tell you, man, they delivered.
Yeah,
they delivered.
In another universe, in another time, a celebrity versus a professional wrestler would have never been as successful.
No.
Like the way it was. And, especially with a celebrity who's only had 3, WWE
match, 2 matches.
Yeah, 2 matches. Yeah. He's athletic, he's done boxing, but yeah, like that match was definitely as JR used to say, a barn burner.
Yeah. I don't even think they needed the extra, it run-ins and so forth. I get why they did it.
Yeah.
But what I love about the run-ins was it didn't change the trajectory of the intended match. It just created moments where people were able to react. Like I don't know if you remember several years ago when Sting and Triple H met at WrestleMania, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way that they did the run-ins by bringing in Hogan and Nash and Hall, and then of course
DX.
DX, it elevated the match.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't confuse it. I felt like they accomplished that with the run-ins from Jake and other moments, which is so hard to do, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Kudos to WWE for booking this match the way they did. We're seeing less and less Vince type booking, which I know is logical, but it's refreshing. It's refreshing when that doesn't become the effect on the outcome.
Yeah.
We all knew Reigns would win, but we all felt like, oh, maybe we're wrong. Did you feel that way during the match?
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask you that. Like, I probably counted 2 or 3 times
Mm-hmm.
where it's like because I was watching the pay-per-view live, obviously,
Yeah.
and here I am laying down on my sofa. I'm on my phone, just Twitter and just whatever, and then I'm kind of watching the match. And then I see in the corner of my eye that Logan Paul is getting the upper hand, and I'm just like, what the heck? Like he's
Yeah.
kind of putting in work against the tribal chief. So
Right.
here I am, and he's getting the upper hand, taking Logan, setting up all these moves. He
Mhm.
does the that one lucky punch. He does the Superman punch, and I'm just like, oh my god, what is happening here?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I'm becoming invested into the match, and it's one of those where I was like, no, they can't, this isn't possible. It's not possible, right? Like, oh my god, what is happening here? And yeah, like that was my whole like matchup. And once the whole interference started happening, I'm like, okay, what's really happening? And then
Yeah.
you kind of start seeing how everything's playing out, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
tribal chief is safe.
Right. Yeah. Well, for me, some of the most interesting parts of that whole experience was the aftermath.
Mhm.
Finding out that at some point about the middle of the match, Logan Paul had torn his meniscus and
Yeah.
really messed up his knee, but continued. I mean, we
Mhm.
don't know when it happened, right? But when you look at the whole body of the match, you realize no matter where it happened, he never showed it.
Yeah.
There was never a pause in what he decided to do, which I'm like, oh man, I hope it's minimal the damage. But I mean, this is there's a splendid image, and you sent it to me, and I've seen it go around 1,000 times, where he's in midair,
Yeah.
and Roman is with his fist ready, and that to me, I hate to be cliche, but that image to me sums up the experience of that match. It was epic when it shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
And maybe shame on me as a fan for thinking that it just wasn't going to deliver. I love that I can still be surprised, especially by the WWE.
Yeah, no doubt. It was one of those where the way they built up the match, like, it definitely felt like they were doing it for the TMZs. They were doing it for the news.
Sure.
Like they were trying to get clout off of
Mm-hmm.
Logan Paul, get those fans where they wouldn't have had fans. But then here's Logan Paul, where he's just amplifying the promotion,
Mm-hmm.
elevating the promotion, saying, I'm putting in work. I'm not gonna just let I'm looking for that moment. I'm trying to steal the show, whatever.
Right.
And then they start hyping up the one lucky punch move, and then little by little, it's like they kept on adding more and more layers,
Mm-hmm.
layers to a storyline that didn't need to have layers.
Right.
It could have been easily just. I don't even think Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg even had that much
No,
at Crown
not even
Jewel,
close.
or Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar, or no, Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg didn't even have that much layers
Mm-hmm.
last year. So
No.
it was one of those where they added so much to it. And yeah, like, just look at the spot where, grabbed the camera from, his group, got on the top rope, did the
Yeah.
flying splash. Who thinks of something like that?
Right.
Like, he's like, oh, I'm just trying to create that moment. Bro, you
Yeah.
created a moment, and you now you had a freaking moment going viral at this point. Like
Right.
somebody that has never picked up WWE, watched WWE, they're gonna be like, why is Logan Paul jumping from somewhere high onto that, big Samoan guy?
Yeah.
So yeah, like that match was definitely that match was something,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
it was
And
definitely different.
I speaking of mainstream, I would venture to say, well, let me ask it. I won't make my statement yet.
Yeah.
Has Roman Reigns crossed into the mainstream a la early John Cena, at least? Do you
Mm,
think he's become a recognizable face now that he's been at it on top for so long?
Casual wrestling fans, hardcore wrestling fans, 100%. Like outside of that, I don't think it's reached John Cena level,
Okay.
but it's barely crossing that bound that border. Let's
He's
put it
starting
that
to
way.
get there.
Yeah, like he's starting
Okay.
to get there. Like I know I was talking to a friend of mine, and her kids watched, or her son watched wrestling, but she never watched wrestling, but
Mm,
she knows who Roman Reigns was. So
gotcha.
it's kind of like, there's that it's that level, there's that boundary.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I base it on. But yeah, like
Yeah.
I think Roman Reigns is kind of crossing that boundary in my eyes.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, no, I was going to say I think it's beginning. I think it's
Yeah.
it's why we need, if he's ever going to get there, it's why we need him and Rock at Mania.
Mhm.
Um, because and frankly, part of me says he deserves it. I mean, this is a guy who I mean, one of these days we're going to have to find a way to put two clips side by side.
Mhm.
The very first, whatever one of his very first promos was, not this would be post Shield,
Yeah.
when he first starts getting his first runs at the championship. You know, when he would go up against, Triple H, or when he would go up against, the establishment champion, right?
Hmm.
His promos now versus then, holy cow.
They're
Like,
butter.
oh
They're butter.
man.
They're
Like,
just
and that only happens, George, if
yeah.
you have put time into your craft.
Hmm.
And how many years, George, that you and I spend talking about how this guy was just never going to be over?
Yeah.
They just didn't want him, and then it was like a switch flipped.
Hmm.
And I think you can agree that there's a distinct moment in the Roman Reigns timeline where he got it right, and they just allowed him to be. And now here we are, over 770 odd days later, and he's holding both belts. It's such an amazing study on what wrestling can be if you just give it time. This bloodline thing, I was so afraid they were going to rush it back in the days of Jay first, getting into it with Roman and, establishing that I'm the tribal chief. Like, dude, that could have easily fizzled out.
Yeah.
Even at that time when Vince was still the guy. How many? I mean, I don't know about you, but I was like, this bloodline thing needs to, like, you gotta let it take root.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like that, like they might end it too quick?
Well, it's kind of like if you look at, the timeline was Roman Reigns returns
Mm-hmm.
at what was it, like SummerSlam, punching Fiend.
Right.
And then afterwards he aligns himself with Paul Heyman. And
Mm-hmm.
then from that, they're like, he brings in his family, the Usos. And then that's where, he fights the Uso at the pay-per-view. And that's where it's like, okay, where is this going to go? But no, it's the whole acknowledge me, I'm your tribal chief.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's like, that point is where, like, okay, they're not gonna let off the gas of the bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like it was that match where it's like that match could have pretty much easily Thanos snapped it, where
Right.
like had they chose not to do that whole acknowledgement at the end, that's it. They would have gone their separate ways. He just defeated his own blood. He just defeated his own family. He's now the head. There's no reason why the Usos should even be across with him. But it's you
Yeah.
acknowledge me, which we hear that now as pretty much a tagline.
Such a great tagline
And
because it has
yeah,
life, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was that point where you could have easily, you know, not had all this happen, but yeah, like you've I'm pretty sure there's been plenty of times where they could have easily gone their separate ways, but Usos winning the tag titles. Now you see the beef between them, and you see Sami Zayn getting in between them, and now it's kind of like, where's this going? Where is this really going at this point?
Yeah. Zayn is such a weird dynamic in it, but it works. It's
Yeah.
so weird how it works. It's crazy.
Yeah.
A couple of other things that we wanted to talk about briefly from the Crown Jewel event: Bailey versus Bianca. I'm never going to be a fan of Bailey, but that was a great match. I mean, Bailey. Listen. I just don't like her personality. I don't like it, but I've never denied that
No.
she's an amazing wrestler. So you put her and Bianca together, and it's going to be you put literally in parentheses match of the night ? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I wish we could talk more about it, but I want to make sure that we get to a few other things before we just turn this into a full-on wrestling show.
Yeah. 3 minutes of wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. The Lashley Brock match was crazy. I didn't think that was going to go the way it did.
Yeah.
But I do want to spend some time on a little bit of time on Omos versus Strowman, because you wanted to make the comparison of Andre versus John Studd, and when you first sent it to me, I was like, I'm offended.
Yeah.
I am offended because I'm the traditionalist, right? So, and I wish I should have gotten pictures of this, but so Strowman versus Omos. First of all, as a match, I think this is the best we've seen from Omos.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's been working with Omos.
Yeah, it's been the best we saw from Strowman also.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Strowman got new life when he was brought back. Like he came in. For him, he's always been talented.
Yeah.
We've always seen what he can do, but he's having fun again, right? I think, if I'm to speculate, I think he's the one that's been working with Omos, because he's showing Omos how to be a big guy.
Yeah.
This was Twin Towers type stuff, man. This was like, I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm liking Omos and what he can do in the ring. Here's the thing that I think is going to probably surprise you, because you asked, okay, compare it to Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd in WrestleMania 1. That match was billed as the Body Slam Challenge. I still find it hilarious that when they're for $15,000, I'm like, okay, what is that? Austin Powers. That match was such a weird thing, because you had two guys in the ring, Andre and Big John Studd. Rest in peace to both. I'm safe to say this. They weren't exactly big movers in the ring. Okay, they were just. This was an era of wrestling where the big guy was just a brute.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where, for me, the comparison kind of falters, because what we have now in big men, especially like Braun Strowman, is they're agile. They can move. The problem with Omos from the outset until now, at least, as we see the beginnings of what's possible, is he was just a brute.
Yeah.
I thought he was destined to be the next great Khali.
Yeah.
Okay. Who would become a novelty. And I don't want that for Omos, because there's athleticism there. And so when you look at Andre versus Big John Studd, you see guys that understood their limitations, but understood that they were working in a time and in an era where it was about cartoon like bigness, right? And if you listen to that crowd, you and I have talked about this a lot. Go back to those early days and listen to the crowd reaction. It is off the hook, right? Now our crowd, it's like our audiences are savvier about what they expect. So you need what Strowman and Omos did in a big man match like this to keep an audience entertained. And that's where I think Omos rose to the occasion. And that's why, if I put these two matches side by side, and there will be traditionalists that will cast spears at me for saying this was a far better match. Way better match than Andre the Giant versus Big. But if you put it in a historical context, Andre John Studd will never lose its value because of the era that it occurred in. I still love watching that, because when he finally slams him, dude, the place explodes. And we didn't get a moment like that between Strowman and Omos, and I don't think we will anymore. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah. When I brought up the idea to you, and it's funny because you immediately, when I put that in our chat, you're like, "I'm so insulted," but I'm guessing you went back and you watched it. And you're
absolutely.
Okay. I could see where you're going at with this.
Mhm.
They were talking about it on commentary, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, the Andre versus Big John
Yeah, I
stuff.
remember that.
But also, if you look in the annals of WWE, you've had matchups. You know,
Oh
you've
yeah.
had Great Khali's versus like the Big Show, or the
Hmm.
Big Show versus Mark Henry, or
And they
you
rarely
know,
deliver.
yeah, Viscera versus or Big Daddy V, or
Right.
Mabel versus just whoever, another big guy. And
Yeah.
yeah, like, it was very slow moving. I would say that before this, the last big match that was actually pretty decent would have been Big Show versus Mark Henry at, I want to say, like, at Extreme Rules. And
Yeah.
they had like a pay-per-view match, and even at that, it was kind of very slow.
Very
But
lumbering. Yeah.
but for somebody who appreciates big men wrestling, just that, that nostalgia, the cartoony, it
Yeah.
was a pretty decent match. But yeah, this one, it was two titans. They kept on referring to, God, what is it, Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley as Godzilla versus King Kong, but no,
No, this
when
was
this one by far is like two
yeah.
titans of terror um, going at it. It's like the what if scenario.
So let me ask you this:
Hmm.
Do you now at some point put them together as a tag team? I mean,
I mean, who's the spot guy? Who's gonna take the hot tag?
or
And
or do you need that? Do you need
yeah,
that? And you give them like, here's an original idea. Are you ready for it?
okay.
You put shoulder pads on them with big spikes and face paint. I'm kidding.
I mean, like, if
Road
you
Warriors 3000.
well, if you remember another big tag team, and they were pretty big in their own rights, Kane and Big Show.
Oh,
They were
absolutely. Oh,
they were a tag team champion,
yeah.
like, for, was it like in the
Oh, for
2000s?
early 2000s. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So it's one of those where it's not too far away. Like, common
No,
enemies, form
bonding
up.
together. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun to see. Although I think both need to be given their time to work on their own. One last thought in terms of you were talking about Big Show and Mark Henry. I just wanted to say that I think that was the beginnings of the more agile big guy.
Hmm.
Because say what you want about Big Show or Mark Henry and their slow styles, they were athletic.
Yeah.
And I mean, dude, one of these days we'll talk about the Mark Henry run
Hmm.
when he finally got his shot at being the guy. Short, but wow, effective.
Was it House of Pain?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, holy cow! What I think that's such an underrated amount. Time in the industry was Mark Henry's run.
Hmm.
All right. Well, let's talk movies for just a bit. We have both now seen Wakanda Forever. Um, so no spoilers. Way too early. Um, First of all, I'm curious to ask you, and for those watching, you will get my official full length take on Wakanda Forever on Real to Real Talk, which will happen next Tuesday evening, depending when you're watching this. But George, how was your theater in terms of attendance? And we got to keep in mind it was a Thursday night, so
Yeah.
were people there?
No, honestly, there was probably, oh gosh. So I was at a Cinemark theater, and
Okay,
I think total, this was probably like a 100 seat theater, and maybe a total of 30 people were there.
yeah,
It was a very low crowd.
yeah,
Um, but also, between the weather changing and
sure,
kind of going into a 3-day weekend, it's like, maybe
yeah.
people might not have off like us.
If Black Adam can pull in what it did,
Yeah.
this movie is going to eclipse that easily.
Oh yeah,
But
100%.
what I and I have to I'm almost sad that not sad, that's not the word. I'm almost like, should I have gone on a Friday
Yeah.
or on to really get a sense of what the crowd's going to be like, because um I was still struck by, like, wow, it's really quiet.
Hmm.
It's really quiet. Um I don't know how much you want to go into it in terms of what your thoughts were. Did you enjoy the film?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. The first one, I will say some key contributing factors, without spoilers, is I'm always a big soundtrack person. I
Oh
like
my goodness, yes.
I love a good soundtrack in a movie.
Yes.
Black Panther, the first one, guys like the Weekend were, had their
Mhm.
sound in it, and this one was, just as amazing. I think
Mhm.
the big song for the movie was the Rhiannon, what is it, the Rhiannon song, and I forgot
Uh,
what the name of the song of it is,
wasn't
but
it "Call Me Maybe" by Carly Rae Jepsen?
oh yeah,
I'm
totally,
kidding.
totally. You're gonna have a bunch of people headhunting you right now. But no, this the soundtrack was pretty on spot for the tempo of the movie. And then just like in the first one, you had a pretty cool couple scenes where you're like, oh my god, they're really showing off the Wakanda spirit, I guess you could say.
Sure.
And then of course, with the whole um, I really like the Mayan influence of the movie.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah.
something very unique and something that we haven't really seen. And to people that are going to listen to the show and go watch the movie, you'll see what I'm talking about. Like towards hour two of the movie, where they kind of go, or maybe an hour and a half into the movie, where they're going to talk a little into it. But yeah,
Yeah.
there was some pretty cool spots in the movie that I really liked. I can really relate to the whole death in the family kind of thing.
Sure.
um and I guess that's where it's kind of really emotional for me in the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
um but yeah, like those, without getting too heavy into the movie, those are my kind of unofficial take,
Sure.
um in
This
my
was
opinion.
what I love about it, and I think this is kind of some of what you're referring to. This movie was a like a really strong tribute to Chadwick Boseman,
Hmm.
which I don't think any of us would have, doubted was going to happen.
Yeah.
I think it was needed. Um, for, and when I say needed, I mean I think the people, the Ryan Coogler, the people who, the cast, this was probably a cathartic experience for them,
Hmm.
and allowing their grief to show, but also this the storyline of how do you maneuver through it
Hmm.
and how do you overcome it without losing the memory of your loved one, right?
Hmm.
And that was something that I know I appreciated about the film overall, because it did it unflinchingly. It didn't shy away from, you know, um, because one of the things I know that people talked about was like, do you move away? How much do you move away from the essence of who the original Black Panther was in the films, at least, without disrespecting the memory, you know? And I think they did a very good job of just allowing themselves to be honest about how they felt and let that work its way into the story, and some really effective things there. But yeah, I again, I'm trying to avoid doing a deep take since I do have a movie show, but um, there was a portion of me that felt like they didn't reach far enough,
Yeah.
you know. Um, so I'll ask it this way: what was for you the whole Namor storyline,
Hmm.
which was obviously the essence of it? As someone who knows those characters from your comic book experience, um, were you okay with how it was portrayed? Did you enjoy the whole aspect of the Talokans? Is that
Tolkien.
Talokan? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know.
How did I'm trying myself. How did you feel about those characters and what they brought? Because there were some awesome things there.
Yeah. Anytime you have a character which
Mhm.
you have conflicting opinions on,
Right.
is a great story, just because you're like, is he the bad guy or is he the good guy? And without us going into spoilers and without us going into a deep take, it's like, it's
Sure.
one of
Sure.
those where, that's how the whole movie is. It's like, is he in the right or is he in the wrong?
Yeah.
Do you side with vengeance or do you side with the good?
Right. Right.
And that's where it's like, you have him, and there's a particular line in the movie where he says he's not just a leader, he's not just a commander. They don't call him those names. He's a god. And
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, like I didn't like, okay, like yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, like it's one of those, like you don't realize that in the movie, like until they say it, you're like, oh crap,
Yeah.
He's not like they're not calling him those names. He's literally a god, or they're treating him like a god, and
Yeah.
you get that, you get just his, you get his mentality on it. And I don't know, like I thought he was a really good villain for this movie. And
Okay.
again, I mentioned tempo, and again, it's all about tempo in this movie. You know, you can't go into this mind that, oh, I'm gonna see Avengers action.
Mm.
You know, you're not going to get Avengers action. You're not going to get, Guardians of the Galaxy Thor humor. You're going to get a tempoed out movie
Hmm.
coming from, um, coming off of the death of one of the most awesome superhero characters
Yeah.
in the Marvel universe. So it's one of those where, you know, you gotta be ready for this movie, and
Sure.
that's my mentality. I wasn't ready for the movie,
Gotcha.
and
Gotcha.
it's just as I was progressing through it, I'm like, okay, I like it.
Yeah. I gotcha. I get what you're saying. I have read and have seen people say that Angela Bassett is this is the kind of performance that should probably be recognized with at least a Golden Globe nomination,
Hmm.
maybe even for the Academy Award. And I got to say, as an Angela Bassett fan, I cannot disagree.
Yeah,
She, when you can take Ramunda from where we've seen her prior, and she was never secondary, right?
yeah,
But wow, you talk about times 10. I'm glad that Bassett had her chance to shine because in a film as one of the leads, because I think that's kind of what I was missing in the previous times that we've seen her is that, there's power there, man, and I love her portrayal of this character. And Bassett is she's a superstar. She's a superstar.
so I gotta ask you, like, this is probably something you don't talk about on your movie show, but to kind of set you up for your movie show, how
Mhm.
much of the trailer how much of the trailer was seen in the movie? Like, like if you were watching one of the trailers at the beginning, do you see that spoiled a lot of the movie, or?
No, and I got to tell you, here lately, it seems like that's what one of my problems with a lot of the movies I've reviewed this year has been.
Yeah.
Is you basically telegraph too much during your trailer.
Hmm.
I think that the stuff that was put forth on the trailers was really only what we saw, like in the first quarter of the film,
Yeah.
right? Um, and the way in which they mixed up the imagery from the films and edited it together, you weren't. And this is something Marvel's good at, because if
Yeah.
you think back to the trailers for Infinity War
Hmm.
and Endgame, though you knew that, okay, there's going to be a snap or they're going to all come back, like you knew that you could never say that the trailers gave anything away.
Yeah.
And Marvel continues to be good at that, because the Wakanda Forever trailers, I think, really did a great job of. It was the complete opposite of Black Adam trailers,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because I'm like, in Black Adam, I'm like, well, this is no surprise. Like, it's all over the trailer.
Hmm.
Whereas, the I want to use an example, but I don't want to give it away. Um, Short answer, no. The trailer did a great job of preserving enough curiosity
Yeah.
in this film. Your thoughts on that?
Same. I
Okay.
100% agree. I know that the trailers this past week did give away a little bit more.
Oh, okay.
Of course, the female outline of the Black Panther
Hmm.
was kind of seen in one image, or one little take, and it wasn't a very long take,
I think the
but
last trailer had that. Yeah,
yeah. So it's
yeah.
one of those where you
But you
kind
were
of
left
knew.
wondering who.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is they kind of like, there's a little bit of tease in the movie
Yeah,
throughout of who could be the next Black Panther, at the same time of just dealing with the whole mind blowing of Shuri. What is it, the confliction that Shuri had with everything
yeah.
Shuri had. So yeah, like definitely the trailer left me interested in the movie.
You know what
And
what I think did that more than the trailer did?
mm,
The freaking poster. Go
mhm,
back and look at the poster.
yeah,
I literally I hadn't seen a movie poster, honestly. I know that sounds impossible, but I try to avoid that stuff in event movies like this. And I saw the poster because I was posting my podcast prepping post on Facebook, right?
yeah.
And I was like, well, there it is. And so, you know, Oh, maybe it's just to throw us off. So here's what I'd like to do. Okay, so write this down on the agenda for next time. I would like us to spend a couple of minutes doing not spoilers necessarily, but a little bit more. We'll give people some time to watch the movie. But there are some details I'd like to visit with you um, on the next time we meet, because there are some things I'd love to hear from you and share with you about the movie itself. So we'll revisit it for a bit next time.
So before we move on to the next segment, where can we get the rest of your spoilers and previews and everything?
We will be so I will be on Real to Real Talk, my movie podcast, Tuesdays on Twitch exclusively, live 8 Eastern, 7 Central, or you can watch it on YouTube no later than the next morning, as our episodes will post to YouTube very shortly after we finish the live broadcast. If you are not someone that has a Twitch account, I welcome you to give it a go and hang out with us, because that's where you'll also see a few minutes with going forward, beginning next week. But if not, then go subscribe to Real Talk on YouTube, and a few minutes with on YouTube as well, where you can catch all of our episodes. So you can also catch us in the interwebs. And so as I prepare to share with my compatriot here, make sure you follow George at Simply George 1234 on both Instagram and Twitter. You can basically comment at how wrong he is on his stuff. So I'm kidding.
Bad idea. I'll block you.
Free speech.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So make sure you follow George, Simply George 1234. You can follow me on twitch.tv/Sergio the Sexy Potato, or Twitter at Serge Sexy Potato. That is where you're going to see all of my show related stuff as we are moving forward into the Twitter for my stuff. So
I'm gonna hijack the show real quick, and this is not on our board, but
Okay.
This has been like getting, this is just, it's distracting me. Who is that to your left on the bed? Like, what cat is that, or is that a dog?
Is George.
Okay,
Yeah, that is George.
So it's funny because I've been seeing him just kind of like stretching and
Yeah,
just kind of looking around, like observing the world, and then
yeah,
like,
right here, right. You're talking about this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's George. So George, it's funny because George is my 3-legged cat. If you follow my stream, and George, you know this, I have Georgie Cam, because he will literally lay on my desk and he'll rest his head on my left hand that I use for my left hand keyboard. And I don't care how much my hand is moving, he just sleeps right through it. His little head's bobbing up the whole time. But yeah, that's Georgie. I in my later years, I finally succumbed to the notion of building the man cave, right? So I've got my whole setup here in front of me. I've got my TV and other now game consoles, and there's even a bed when I'm like, I think I'll just sleep right here because it's late. But yeah, but of course the cats hijack that space. So yeah, so now that's Georgie.
Yeah, I was just, I don't know. I had to stop the show. I was like,
you're so distracting.
I didn't know we were going to have guests on the show, or else I would have been better prepared for a question.
Absolutely.
Georgie, how does it feel to be a cat in this person's home?
He's like, I can sleep all I want. And so, yeah, he's a good boy. You'll also see now and then Klaus, my ginger kitty, will fly through here. Steven's begun to do that. So, yeah. There, it was funny because there used to be a time when I was podcasting live finally on our video, where I was like, oh God, I got to make sure the cats don't come. Now I'm like, if they come up here, it's like with work. It's like, I mean, if they're up, if they're here, they're here. So
and it's so surprising because, like, in a world, and again, this is like one of those where in another world at another time it would probably be shamed upon when kids and cats and dogs and anybody comes on camera when it's only supposed to be about you. Now people got all those and plus some and wild animals coming into their camera and being over there Pocahontas.
And it's all okay. It's like, if you're going to shame me for having pets show up on camera, well, then maybe you should get a pet.
And other conversation starters.
I know, right? Exactly. Why are people weird? No. But yeah, so it's been another fun time conversing. I don't think we're ever going to run out of topics, man. I almost kind of feel bad, but not really, because for those who don't know, you build the format for the episodes week to week, and I don't think we ever 100% go through them, or at least not in the way that they're. And I love that. It's like we can riff because they know we're on that list. Hey, let's talk turkey. So
Yeah, no, or cats.
that's right, exactly. So that's what's fun. So George, as always, thank you for hanging out and helping this project move forward. I'm excited about us going live.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be awake. Won't be too sleepy. Past my bedtime or anything.
Yeah, we're gonna shoot for 9 p.m. Central on Thursdays. If it's sooner, we'll let y'all know. But yeah, we'll continue this journey, and we will have, hopefully, fingers crossed. It's looking. I'm about 99% sure. Just got to get a time commitment from our first guests. We'll have our first guest next week. So
Sweet
things to look forward to. All right, senor. Well, until next time, we will continue to say thank you to all of you who are out there. Make sure you follow George. Make sure you follow me. Make sure you come on back. And we're going to keep doing this till the wheels fall off. So until next time, we say thank you. We love you. And we remind you, you're awesome. You're amazing. And the world's a better place because you are in it. We'll see you next time on A Few Minutes With.